Why are we so obsessed when it comes to forged irons? So much so we pay over the odds for them, and sometimes at a detriment to our own game. However, there will be quite a few of you watching this video where your game now demands a forged player's iron. So let me give you my 3 best choices that won't break the bank, but also at the same time show you how to choose your perfect forged iron for your game. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here, SAS Golf Academy, and one of these irons will be going into my bag towards the end of this year. And the reason I bring this up is that the other 2 irons I don't think I could game. Yes, these are all forged. Yes, these all sound great. Yes, these are all got quite different price points. The point I'm trying to prove is that when we start this game, we think forged irons are just in one category, and there's no difference between one brand's forged iron and another brand's forged iron. And to be honest, when I was looking through Replay Golf's iron section, looking for these forged irons and how they all slightly differ, that is very much apparent. We have forged blades, we have forged CB irons, we have forged muscle back irons, we have forged cavity back irons. And the reason that I feel this video is so important is that as we start playing this game, I feel every golfer has this small urge that he needs a forged iron. It's talked about, it's revered enough in this game, soft feeling, great sounding, that he must one day upgrade himself to a set of forged irons. Now, neither of these are my picks for today. I've got 3 other irons that I want to show you and how they differ. But these here kind of show the 2 opposite sides of the spectrum. Because these are both forged irons made out of exactly the same material, 8620 carbon steel, yet they feel, they sound, they perform completely different from each other. So let me explain why I'm holding this beauty in my hand, as the price tag is still somewhat hefty even in the second-hand market, but more importantly, show you guys how to navigate the forged iron market. What price should you be looking for? What head style should you be looking for? What loft should you be looking for? Because all of these irons that I'm holding here, when it comes to sound and feel, can't really get that much better. Now, this is 32 degrees in terms of loft. And again, that's quite strong for a forged iron. As I say, most forged blades are going to be around 34 degrees. But this is my confidence club. And again, the reason that I say confidence is, yes, the performance, the looks, and the feel, which I'm going to show you in a second, are, well, just phenomenal. But also the confidence in a very well-known brand, which, by the way, you're also paying for, but it's actually one of the reassurances of this golf club. And yes, the second-hand price of these Titleist irons are quite high compared to my other 2, around the £550 to £700 mark, depending on how many irons you get. But just look at the constant stream of sale of Titleist irons. There is multiple sales every single day. Why? Because this is the most used, well-known brand on tour in the public and potentially across the world. But as I said to you at the start, some of you guys will just jump onto the forged iron bandwagon too early. You might need to go back to cavity backs that have more forgiveness and less feel. Still don't sound bad, by the way. And if that is the case, yes, you are investing a lot more money into these than, let's say, any other forged iron in this list. And to be perfectly honest, you could just get the T100Ss, which is the one previous to this, for example, and that would be even cheaper and do virtually the same thing anyway if you don't want to spend that much money. But my overall point with Titleist is that it's so easy to resell. So you could use these irons for a year, 2 years, they're not going to really lose that much money, and you'll have a long line of people wanting to buy them off you. From over demand and very well known to, let's say, heavily underrated, let me tell you why this is a particularly different iron to everything else that you'll see out there. And yes, one of them is price, and no, this isn't the set of irons that will be going into my bag. The last set of irons will. But typically when you get Regardless of forged irons or let's say powerful irons, typically when you get lofts of around 30 degrees, Dynapower forged here is 30.5. Typically manufacturers try and make them so that they suit that particular golfer. That over the top slices it to the right quite fast, therefore they need a forged iron like this. But then it comes with a thick top line and it also sits quite offset. This, however, lofted at 30 degrees, and actually online there's quite a few different complications. So 29 or 30, I'm going to say 30 degrees, this VX TW757 is not offset. It actually has a very thin top line on the top of it as well. This looks like the other two irons I have, but it's more powerful. It's actually slightly more forgiving than the other two, and we're talking very slightly here. But for those golfers that have played forged blades, getting a bit older, or potentially that lower handicap player that isn't necessarily fast and spins the ball a touch more, therefore needs still a bit of distance, this right here is the perfect compromise. And to be honest, there's not many irons out there that look like this, feel like this, and can potentially produce the distance of this. And I haven't even really told you the price that you can obviously get it for. It feels great, it sounds great. To be perfectly honest, you can pick it up for hardly anything. If you can find a set, that is. This is already becoming quite interesting. Obviously, I'll hit the last iron in a minute and we can talk about that. Some of the prices you can find the Honma for are incredible, but it is nearly impossible. There's so few of them out there. To be honest, it might be worth just putting these into your saved search list so that when one does pop up, you'll be the only one bidding on the set. Hence why you see them go for around $350. But it's why I chose both of these irons. Yes, they're slightly different, but in terms of brand and also selling them on, they're also on the opposite end of the spectrum. You put this on Facebook or just hang a flyer out your window, loads of people will want to buy it off you. This you could take to every golf convention up and down the country, and a lot of people would just be wondering, what are you trying to sell them? Which brings me on to the last iron that I'm going to be putting in my bag this year, and I have to again say thanks to Replay Golf, as these are getting harder and harder to find. There used to be a time where I would call this brand underrated. And a year after, quite similar to Wilson, for example, you could get the brand new set of these in the wrappers or hardly hit for 50% off, 60% off. No one wanted these irons. And at the time, it almost felt like if you were in the know, then you got a great deal from this particular brand. Oh, that just feels phenomenal. However, recent performances over the last year. We're talking the US Open winner. Keegan Bradley just won last weekend with Srixon irons in the bag. Shane Lowry has had a phenomenal couple of years for Srixon. Brooks Koepka has Srixon irons in the bag. For a manufacturer that doesn't really have that much skin in the game in terms of a player stable, all of a sudden, there's a lot of Srixon irons winning on tour. Let's just look at the soles, for example. Again, there's not much difference between them, but you can see how as we go from, let's say, the Honma. Again, don't get me wrong, control looking, great feeling, great sounding. And we go to the ZX7, how much more smaller it is in terms of that sole. That nice little V grind that they have on there. That basically allows me to play this iron like a blade if I wanted to. If I wanted to hit that control low ball flighted shot with this quite forgiving forged iron, well, guess what? I can. Choke down on it, drive your hands forward. What was my launch there? 11.8 degrees. Now, there's pros and cons from a brand actually coming into the limelight. Number one, the con, these are actually keeping their price really well, which means you have to invest more money into Srixon than you used to. However, just like the Titleist irons, this here is my perfect in the middle kind of spot for a forged iron. Still 32 degrees, still quite forgiving, stunning looking. And yes, you'll have to invest around £500 for a set of these, but I actually think that these are going to hold their value incredibly well in the future, especially if every Tour Pro that has Srixon ZX7s in their bag keeps, well, winning with them. Obviously not the fairest test because these all have different shafts. However, all of them produce similar numbers. They all felt amazing. They are all from different brands with different styles, and it's no wonder that the one that's least lofted is the one that launches the lowest, and the ones that are both at 32 degrees produce similar kind of numbers. However, there's only one head style that gives you maximum feel, and let's be honest, in 2025, the majority of main brands, even the ones that have come out in the last 5 years, all feel amazing, forged or not. Guys, thank you ever so much for watching this video. Any questions, sasgolfacademy.com. Catch you guys later.